Welcome all to another edition of Gridiron Gallery. Yes, Gridiron Gallery, back with another episode. It's been some time. It's been such a long time, as they say in one of Boston's best songs, but here we are. And I am bringing back a guest who has also been gone away from the show for a long time, but he has quite the stories to bring back to the show. He has had quite a past 2022 season in the IFL this time around. It is Craig the Leg Peterson joining me for this latest edition of Gridiron Gallery. Craig, good to have you back on. It's been a while, as I cannot stress enough, just for you and myself. Plenty of stories I want to get to today. How are you doing right now? How's the off season? Where's your mind at?
It's good. It's relaxing, now that the season is over and, coming off of another championship is always good, coming into the off season. So I'd say, a bit relaxed, just working, training as usual, keeping my mind fresh, mentally preparing, all different kinds of stuff, good things, got to see family, friends, um, just, kind of getting ready to enjoy the holidays and getting right back after it the first of the year, coming into 2023. So it's been good.
Right. Right. I mean, right now you're like I say, you're talking about things ahead for the end of the year and football, at least in the realm you're in currently, and even for what we're talking about with just alternative leagues. It's kind of a weird period right now. The late fall, of course, is more NFL time. You've got the CFL course, but in terms of indoor arena and even like the spring leagues that you've been looking to get opportunities with, it's kind of that like it's really off season period of like free agency and just kind of regrouping and such. So you probably have, like I said, you're probably dealing with that. But I would love to revisit right now, just your last year in the IFL. You referenced, now you're back-to-back champion, and I do want to talk about the championship in particular over in Vegas at the Dollar Loan Center. Um, but I want to just start this in preference to people. You were on, and you were on at least transaction to 4 different teams last year. How do you, I mean, indoors, not exactly when you're talking moving like that. It, I'm fascinated on how that works and how you're handling that, because it's not the same as being moved from, say, an NFL team or even one of these XFL teams that will probably have movement in markets. It's smaller scale, and you got to go and tough it out a bit more, not just as a player, but financially, I would imagine as well. How does this work for you? Where are you at when you deal with these transactions?
Well, first of all, man, I appreciate you having me on the show. I just wanted to throw that
Mhm.
out there. And, I love coming on here and talking football with you guys. So I do appreciate that. But in regards to the question, listen, it was a first, for me this year, for a whole lot of firsts for me in my career. Um, the moving around is, I've been so used to it and so accustomed to it over the years that it's really, you don't even think about it at that point. The traveling in one year, that was a lot, with moving, everything and just kind of, picking up, trying to go forward, go to a different team, be on a different team mid-season. It's a lot, man. It's very taxing, not just physically, but mentally as well. Just trying to, get ready, get your snapper, your holder, and your offensive line together and be a unit and be solidified. And then going and getting rid of that and starting over somewhere else, to a team that's been playing for 2, 3, 4 weeks or even halfway through the year, or like when I got on Northern Arizona, it'd be a whole year. You're just there for the
Mhm.
playoffs. So it was difficult. I'd be lying if I said I just brushed it off, but it was hard, man. Like I said, it was the first in my career, being traded, being released all in the same year.
Right.
I mean, neither of those things ever happened to me. So, having both of those things happen, it just, man, it was weird. It was one of those things that you do have to, fight through that adversity and kind of know who you are as an athlete, and as a person, and just try and figure it out as you go along. There's no recipe to, oh yeah, if I get released or if I get traded, this is what I'm supposed to do. You just kind of have to roll with the punches and keep being the person that you are. And I continue to do just that. And, fortunately, thank God that I was put in the right situation at the right time, and the right people recognized, my talent and picked me up. And, essentially won another championship.
Yeah, and you definitely talk about right place, right time. I mean, let's see here. So just to reiterate, folks, with the movement, you started off in Massachusetts. You then are.
So,
Oh, go ahead.
oh,
If I mess it up, feel free to let me know. But
yeah, that's okay. So I actually started off in Columbus.
oh
I
wait, that's
was
right.
I
Well,
was
yes, actually, you are bringing up a good point. That is, let me even backtrack that further. I feel so silly for not even remembering this. Yes, because you originally signed on to Columbus pre 2022 season with the NAL.
Yep.
Things go differently, I assume, is where that goes, right?
Yeah, so I mean, so just for everyone out there, Mason Espinoza, everyone knows who that is. Great quarterback, been in the NAL a while. Great person too. If anyone out there knows Mason personally, he's just a great guy to be around. And we had spoken after the championship game when we beat Columbus. And he's like, man, we just needed a kicker. He's like, if we had you, we probably would have won. And I was like, listen, let's keep in touch, let's talk, and maybe we'll figure something out next year. And we talked during the off season. We discussed that, if I came to Columbus, this is what it would be like. And I spoke with Coach Gibson, great coach, great person. And they both kind of, they didn't really have to convince me. I've always wanted to play with Mason. Mason's a great quarterback.
Oh
I've known
yes,
about him for a while now. So I said, okay, I knew Tommy wasn't going to come back to Albany. Obviously, things kind of went south in the Albany organization. So a lot of players were not, for lack of a better term, they just weren't going to come back. I
sure,
don't need to get into the nitty gritty, but they just weren't going to come back to Albany because of ownership things and what happened. So with that being said, I obviously was going to go play somewhere else, and what better yet to play with Mason, or who better to play with other than Mason Espinoza. So Gibson talked to me about coming to Columbus and obviously what it would be like. And, Mason and I talked about it and I decided to sign. So, with that being said, I signed with Columbus. I get down there and wouldn't you know, I think it was like the day before camp started. It was our initial team meeting,
hmm
almost like where you get to know the players kind of thing. And that night, well, that day, Coach Gibson found out from Mason that he was taking an offensive coordinator job at DePaul College. Good for him. Congratulations. That's awesome. I'm proud of him. And they're doing really well this year, too, which is great. But I was just like, everyone saw it on my face. Everyone was excited for me to be there. I was excited to be there and play with these guys. And yeah, I held back my emotions, but I was just like at the meeting, I was like, no.
right,
And I didn't really have any words because I'm like, that they sold me on going to Columbus. And I was like, I was under the impression that Mason was going to be the quarterback here. That I was distraught, that's just for lack of a better word. And I just figured, you know what? We'll see how things go. I'll go through training camp. We'll see. I think Darren Daniels was the guy that came in,
hmm
and we'll see how he does. So he came in. Things were a little shaky at first. With the new Ironman rules, I was having several different holders, several different snappers,
right, right,
and through camp, and not a lot of. I haven't really talked about this with the camp aspect with the Ironman rules. It's different. I'm used to having a guy that we find that can hold and a guy that can maybe snap. And if they can't, I teach them. But that's what camp is for. We were going through camp trying to find guys through camp, be like, oh, okay, well, you're not going to be a specialist. So, we gotta change it up now. So now it's like you might not even be in the game.
it's
So
true.
now, a week goes by, a week and a half goes by. Now we're changing the holders out. Be like, oh well, you're not going to be a specialist either. You might only be in on a few drives. So it's like, okay, we got to find another. I had, I think, 4 different holders in 2.5 weeks of camp,
Oh my god,
and then I had, I think, 3 snappers, and some were just some we really didn't even try out. We tried it before practice, obviously, and some guys just didn't make the cut. But even the guys that did, it's like it's hard trying to teach. It's hard enough trying to teach one guy how to snap. but trying to teach 3 different guys, it's it's kind of a pain, but that's what you have to deal with when with the Ironman rules and the fact that Mason was not there. He was going to be my holder.
Mm-hmm.
So the holder situation would have been completely fine if Mason had been there, but because our quarterback Darren was like, "Nah, I don't hold." So I was like, "Okay, I'm not going to force it on him." You know what I mean?
Sure.
And then he did try, but he just didn't have it. With the coordination and everything. So now you take away our quarterback, our starting quarterback is gone. The fact that my holder is gone, now I got a bunch of different holders. I did start to think about what other options I could possibly have by the end of camp. So I'm thinking, and I was very vocal about this with the coach, and it was one of those things where something popped up, and the IFL's on. That it was already on. I believe they were in week 4 or 5, and I'm watching these games. I'm seeing how the kickers are doing and whatnot. What teams that I would even go to that are available that need a kicker. And it just so happened Massachusetts kicker was not doing very well at all, and he had a couple rough games back to back. And it just so happened the game when they contacted me was the week that we were supposed to play Jacksonville, the first game. So that's kind of how this all started with me, moving on from the NAL and transferring to the IFL.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, that would track. I mean, transaction wire. And again, I apologize. I'm trying to recollect myself from part of last year too. NAL in the brain, IFL as much as I can here. Um, you know, mid-April is generally you're starting out. It's been a few weeks into the season at that point for people that don't understand the structures. IFL generally tries to get going usually in like early-ish March
Mm-hmm.
to get on their schedule and their path because they usually have a longer schedule, more teams, of course, to balance out. Then the NAL tries to follow the traditional AFL scheduling structure of like mid to late April. So yeah, that would be that. I mean, that adds a lot more pieces to the puzzle for sure. And I appreciate the insight. I mean, honestly, I'll be frank. Mason Espinosa shocked everyone. I think when he announced he was going to take the coaching job. Great decision on his part. I think for moving his career course. No one disagrees with that. It's just, I think much like you're talking with Gibson and others, it was quite amazing for that community of fans and the teams themselves going, all right, the power dynamics completely shifted in the league now because
Yeah.
he's not there. League MVPs now basically run the retirement for part of the season at least, but beginning of the year, that was definitely a shock. I can understand, much different team structure for you to go over at the Columbus Lions at that
Oh
point.
yeah. Oh yeah, completely different. And you kind of saw that with how the games were going, in the
Yes,
beginning of the year. And it for Albany, it looked a little shaky because the quarterback situation with Mike Faithful and Warren Smith, and then the situation with Sam Castro. It just like you didn't know what was going to happen with Albany because they're defending champions.
sure.
We won last year, so of course you're already going to be at the top. And then Carolina with who they had coming in, those were the 2 top teams, and I wouldn't have expected anything different than exactly to what have happened, other than in the championship game. I did not. I mean, that was rough, man. That was
I
you
don't
never
think
want to
anyone.
see that for the league. You don't want to see that for anybody, for the team. You don't want to see that for the owners. It's just that was a really lopsided game, and it was just unfortunate to see how things transpired with how the season went. So hopefully they clean things up next year, and hopefully the league gets better now that it has 2 new teams, and have some more stability, and see how things go. So it'd be good for them.
Mm-hmm. While we're at this, I might as well even ask because you actually, it's funny, AFL kicker Nets are coming back to the NAL starting next year. So tell us about kicking with the Nets again. I think you referenced this in the last time we were here, but let's give a refresher to people if we have. If we not, I want you to put it out there because I imagine
Yeah.
the strategy's got to be different, and they're trying to plan it where they want you to force to kick at the net. They don't want to do it purposeful out of bounds kicks, from what I understand. So what do you got to prepare for now that you have the ball being most likely back in play no matter what?
Well, first of all, it is a whole different ballgame. You know, there's always going to be a return, and now more than even before, especially with the deuce still being intact, I man, I'm telling you, dude, it is a completely different ball game for the kickers.
Mm-hmm.
They have to realize what kind of talent they are bringing in. They are going to need to bring into this league, kicker wise. And you know, when I kicked with the Nets, we were getting paid a lot more money.
Right.
that's just that's just you know the bottom line. We got paid a lot more money when we were
Yeah.
kicking with the Nets because obviously in the AFL it's a whole different ball game. With this now and kickers and you know I don't know what kickers are getting paid in that league. And it was the reason I didn't re-sign with Albany, to be honest. Um, but I don't know, man. You not only have to be able to kick it that far,
True.
but you have to keep it in bounds. Now, I don't know what they're doing. It's a good thing you said that because I don't know what they're doing or what the penalty will be if you kick it out of bounds. Because if you just get it at the 20-yard line, you might as well kick it out of bounds every time again still. Because I'm gonna tell you something. There will be a lot of touchdowns, especially with the Iron Man rules intact, because you're gonna have offensive linemen out there on kickoff return
Mm-hmm.
and kickoff for that matter. So that's why the kicker is going to be even more valuable than it was when I was in there, when I was in the league in the AFL with when the Nets were there. So, I mean, man, it's going to be it's either going to be like really bad or really good, and really good meaning like it can intensify the game, or it could be a touchdown on every single kickoff.
Right.
I know that's cool, that's intense and everything, but does it kind of you know, does it kind of ruin the style of play? Does it take out a part of the game? I don't think it does. Obviously it adds to it in my mind. But remember, you got to think we didn't have offensive linemen out there and guys that probably shouldn't be out there on kickoff and kickoff return because we
Mm-hmm.
weren't playing the Iron Man rules. So it will be completely different to see. But man, you gotta. I don't. They need to implement something. Whereas if you don't hit the net, you're penalized or the other team can potentially get some type of points.
Sure.
I know that probably won't happen, but you need to be penalized in some sort of way where it's really bad if you kick it out of bounds and you don't hit the net. So,
Mm-hmm.
it's unfortunate that they would have to come up with something like that because the Arena Football League, you were just penalized. I remember well, at least I was told I was the only guy that anyone ever saw hit it over the net.
That's a feat in
And I
itself
did
for how tall those things are. Like
right.
for those, I mean, seriously, for those listening, those things, is what they should be, the same dimensions from what we understand with the AFL. Those things, you got to really crank your leg into that ball to get it over the top.
Oh yeah. And it happened twice. And I remember someone recorded it and put it on YouTube because I'd never seen it before. But when that happened, we got a penalty and they got it to the 20-yard line. It was just a penalty. But our coach is screaming and hollering, be like, listen, that's not our fault. The nets aren't higher. You know what I mean? So
What do you mean they can't go to the Raptors? Are you kidding me?
yeah. In fact, that's funny. There was one game I was in Arizona with the Rattlers, and I actually hit the top bar, and it bounced back to like the 20-yard line. It was really cool. We
Oh,
almost recovered it. We should have recovered it. Phil Barnett didn't keep the ball in his hands
man.
because I remember that. But that was when I was still playing. I was still playing with Phil, but it bounced all the way back to the 20. Like that. That's why I do like the Nets with the steel frames.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, bar balls are going to play another role in that.
That's
So it's
true. That's
it's
a
it's going to
feared
be
term.
fun. Yeah,
That's such a feared term.
I used to call them kick sixes because what I would do sometimes is I would hit a bar ball and we would recover it and score a touchdown on the kickoff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kick six, kind of cool. So
Get you.
yeah, I mean we'll see what happens. It's going to be very interesting. It's going to be a different dynamic. The game in general is changing. First Iron Man, now the Nets. People weren't huge fans of Iron Man. The games are longer. There's more penalties. Got maybe once they start to figure it out more, maybe the games will flow a little bit better. But we'll see with these Nets, man. You have to have a kicker who is able, if you're calling return right or kickoff right or left, you have to be
Hmm.
able to hit it from whatever hash mark that you want to hit from and kick on either the left side of the net, the right side of the net. Are you going for the deuce every time? I don't know. Can your kicker, is your kicker consistent enough? It's going to be interesting. Is he physical enough? Because now,
Yeah.
if you don't have certain guys on the field, your kicker might need to make more plays than usual. I mean, I had 14 tackles my rookie year in the AFL with a forced fumble.
I was introduced to you via the Destroyers, and there was one specific game I was watching. I swear it was against the Blackjacks, if I remember right, just completely creaming this guy coming across the 25. And I was like, damn. Uh, that, like, besides the kicks, that's my first memory of you watching you in the games. It's just being this aggressive guy on the other side in special teams. So I understand. And the shorter field, like that comes into play more often. The kickers are going to be more involved. You don't have that space to maybe be away from the play as much. You have to be kind of an active participant right after you bang that thing down to the 50-yard line or down 50 yards. Words, but yes, I so much here is very much things you got to watch out for. Kicking already, I feel, is such a premium position to find good guys. Anyhow, it's not like it's I mean, not always is this way, but it still feels like some people. It's not always a dime a dozen. You can find these guys that are accurate and can have the leg strength.
That's true. That's very true. And you know, just to piggyback off that, I just feel like the kickers now, and this is what I used to do. I still do. I watch a lot of film on
Mm-hmm.
returners. With what returners we're going up against. I did a lot of it this year when I was in the IFL because obviously everything's return mostly, unless you're able to hit it and then have it squib and go out of bounds. But
Right.
if guys aren't watching film and where these guys, what ball they like to hold or what hand they like to hold the ball into, what lane they like to take, they like to go, do they like to go right? Do they like to go left? What teams are running? We had special teams meetings in the AFL, every week. And, we didn't really have that in the NAL because it's like, we're just going to kick the deuce and if it goes in, great. If it doesn't, they start at the 20 and that's that.
Mm-hmm.
There's no schemes. You have to run schemes now. Like there will be a more special teams aspect um involved in the game and in the NAL now. So, if kickers aren't prepared for that, at least, watching the film, seeing what they should do. Maybe they should watch some old AFL film. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see these new batch of kickers, how they perform and how they handle the nets. Because if you can't hit I mean, when we were in the AFL, I know we were on a much higher standard
Mm-hmm.
than the NAL. But if you can't hit the net, you're fired, dude. You're gone. See ya.
I
If
mean
you
that
can't hit the net, you might as well. Yeah, you got to go kick somewhere else.
I mean, that's fair. I mean, that was talking about league level structure back in 2019. I mean, the AFL really was the true number three in that regards back at the time. This is pre XFL. CFL is really the number two at that, and number one's of course the NFL. It's before 2020. AFL was the de facto third, at least
Yeah,
because it was actively playing. The XFL was going to be the next one at that point next year, but we can't predict stuff plus bankruptcy. So yeah, you have to hold a professional standard, and people at the time still for the AFL were getting picked up for these upper leagues anyhow. So, and you're getting paid pretty reasonably good salary at that point. I mean, there's still, the AFLPA, being in presence also, average salaries from what I understand were reasonable to work on with as well.
yeah,
So I could see that,
yeah. It's crazy, man. I mean the competition and the way they did things. I mean, they did it right, but it's just it was a much harder atmosphere. You have guys coming in, even though I was doing well my rookie year, I'd still have guys come in that I had to compete against
Mm-hmm.
almost on a weekly basis. I mean, there was a stretch, I think, from like week 2 to week 8, I had a different kicker come in and compete against every week, well, like once a week. And then after that, I really started to solidify my position halfway through the year, and then it wasn't so often. But I mean, man, it's intense and it's very competitive. This league, I mean, you'll see guys doing all sorts of stuff now. And, if they don't, they got a string of games, they don't do well, they stick with them. And, there's not many changes made, which is fine. That means maybe the coaches are loyal to them or whatnot, but, it's just not it doesn't, it doesn't have that as big of a competitive nature a lot with the players and keeping your job as it did before. Now that also comes with, more money, higher pay scale. Obviously we're on ESPN every week.
That too. Yeah.
The national broadcast, yeah, stuff like that. So you always want to make sure you have the best talent on the field, and I get that. But let's hope it keeps building, and let's hope some things eventually happen where it's going to make for a better game, and I think putting the nets in is going to add to that.
Yeah, and but I mean, I do an NAL show, for crying out loud. If there's one thing, I'll be honest with you, all this stuff, seeing traditional arena stuff come back, there's a lot of positivity there, but I'm also with you. The execution is part of the battle. So
Yes,
you keep building
100%.
that. As long as you find guys and you keep building to where you have talent that makes and shows the rules are worth the changes, which, I felt at the end of last year, they finally got the Iron Man sorted out to where it wasn't a distraction and people were getting used. And actually, here's another tidbit that really excites me. I haven't even talked about this on the Inside the Walls podcast, but they are adding a third specialist where you'll have a dedicated lineman on each side.
Oh, they are. Okay.
Yeah. So I think they took a page from Coach Resignalo, because he had Ziegler as the specialist on offense as center. So
okay,
you have a third guy, dedicated motor that you can have on both sides now that makes it three. And actually that helps the special teams. I just forgot. That just popped back into my mind. So it should help. But I'm with you. The execution's key. But I can't say enough. I've been a Nets fanatic since they even have been hinting at it. Saying it alone has me, I don't know, I'm just giddy. I want this year to come to see how well they execute it. That's all I am right now, and the new markets too. Add that in.
Of course, that's right. Fayetteville and I believe West Texas, right?
Yep, good old Warbirds coming to town this time. I want to ask you though, because you've been in the NAL, you've actually been in the IFL before past season too. So I gotta ask. I mean, it's been a minute. I mean, several years since between your IFL stays. I mean, how's the IFL changed in your eyes between times you have been presently with the league?
So I was in Spokane when they were originally the Empire. Not originally, because they've always been the Shock.
Sure.
But when they were called the Empire in Spokane, I was there in 2017. I played 6 games with them before signing a contract with the Hamilton Tiger Cats in the CFL. So I eventually left. And to me, that's when I was like, okay, the IFL is looked at, not just the AFL, but the IFL is looked at where it really is a spot where you can advance, right? Now, I'm not saying that I went to the IFL and all of a sudden, hey, I got a mini camp offer to go to Hamilton. No, I had a combine in Arizona. I had to take a game off from Spokane to go there. And then that's where I was seen by a bunch of scouts. And then I was able to go to mini camp. I performed well at mini camp. And then they finally offered me a contract to come to training camp. So that's how that happened. But from then until this past year, so I'd only spent 6 games in the IFL before coming back this year. And I mean, the reason the NAL was very appealing to me was the deuce.
Sure.
Right? Because if you have a big leg and you're accurate, that's perfect for someone like me, right? The Ironman, obviously, not too much fan. I'm not really a fan of that, so I kind of got away from it. And I think everyone, even you, can admit that the special teams was a bit sloppy this year. With a lot of bad snaps, some bad holds, a lot of missed kicks. You hate to see it, but I mean that's the reality of it.
Right. Yeah.
So for
Certainly
me, I
were
was like,
moments, without a doubt.
yeah.
Certainly some moments.
So, the IFL, I also do like the field goals, right? I like kicking long field goals because if you're able to hit them and you can hit them somewhat consistently, that also looks good. That's good on film too. So you don't really kick a lot of field goals in the NAL. So there was that aspect too. So it kind of like changed for me. But being in the IFL before as to now, the kickoffs are the same. The squibs, I was never a fan of that. But it's just
Yeah.
something that you have to get by in order to be able to succeed in that league.
Right. Trust me,
And
this
then
works. You know.
right. And then you get your chances to hit field goals and obviously your extra points as usual. So has it changed much? I think the league as a whole has. I mean, there's more teams now than there was before. There's 14 teams. That's a lot of teams. It's good.
Mhm.
Um, the traveling is nice, being able to go to different states and see different areas and stuff like that. Um, I will say the championship game being held in Las Vegas was a game changer. I mean, that was unreal. The way that they treated us, was first class. We got to stay in this really nice hotel out in Vegas, and we were there for I think 3 nights, and it was awesome, man. It was pretty cool because you're in a neutral location now. So yeah, you're
Mhm.
going to have not just fans from the other team and your team, and it just so happened that Northern Arizona wasn't too far away,
Sure.
so
Yeah.
we had a bit more fans there, which is cool. Um, it makes it for a good atmosphere. But having that many I mean, I didn't even think it was that. It was close to 5,000, but having that at a neutral site for the first year, that's pretty good. I mean, the environment was just being in Vegas. I mean, I've been to Vegas before. For those that have not been to Vegas, I suggest you go at least once and try it out and see what
Di-
it's like.
Ditto, by the
Um,
way.
yeah,
Just if you, even if you don't go for the football games or anything, just go. You know.
just go, just check it out, man. Go for a weekend, check it out. Have fun, live it up, and it's just one of those. It's one of those things where it makes you feel like you're in that type of atmosphere. You're like, yeah, this is the professional atmosphere. Like this is pretty cool. It's nice. Oh, if you have home field advantage, it's great having a championship in your hometown. But you know, where's the Super Bowl isn't ever at someone's hometown unless you get really lucky like the Bucks did. But typically, it's in a neutral site, and I like that aspect of it. It's like real football, and it's just that type of environment and that atmosphere and the way that they treated us and the way that they did the banquet and everything like that, it hyped it up. It was amazing. It was a great. It was just it was a great time to be alive. I'll tell you that because being in that type of environment was pretty cool. So I can't stress it enough that having a neutral site definitely has its advantages, and it makes for just better football. Really, when it comes down to it, you got your Western Conference championship, your Eastern Conference championship. That's cool. Where it's like you got the two conferences battling it out, and then you come together for this neutral site game, and who knows who's going to play. You had 5 different champions the last 5 years. I mean, that's cool, man.
Yeah.
That's good stuff. Now they're partnering with the XFL. I mean, big things are coming, man, and it's really interesting to be a part of it, and it's fun, and it's still keeping the game intact and just unified. I guess is the best word I can use.
So yeah, I mean that's one word I would say. The other one I feel you're definitely pointing at, and correct me if I'm wrong. It sounds like you're saying it's definitely feeling bigger league, like stuff that you expect from a more professional organization. At least fan side of it to me, and this is me being honest here. I've always this is my biggest thing that I give the IFL. I always feel the social media and the presence of how they present themselves has always been a bit better. I love that aspect. I do, and I think their game is still it's the similar quality of the 50-yard game that people want to love, but it feels more professional in how they show themselves off.
Right.
And I think that exemplifies. You see decisions like this partnership, for example. It's a big win for them in terms of what the look and the feel and what the pipeline they can bring. Um, the team sizes, everyone points to it. Anyone I've talked to that looks at arena on the outside of it that aren't diehards, the amount of teams, it's a big deal to them. 8 teams compared to 14, they're looking at the 14 because like, oh, more teams, more owners, more money.
Mm-hmm.
And then of course the social media aspect, I can't even stress enough. The IFL social media, it's a really good social media group. They do an excellent job. So I just feel like you're exemplifying all the stuff that I look at and I go, yeah, the league's doing an awesome job, bringing in, they have talent, but they also do a good job presenting that talent and their brand in a really good way, just doing things the right way, I think.
Hmm. Yeah, they like you said, especially with media, putting it out there. I mean, the marketing aspect that they're doing it. I couldn't tell you how many times I saw the commercial where they would play that the game is going to be in Vegas, right? And
Mm-hmm.
they should, Todd Tryon's in there, and they got some some football highlights and stuff like that, and just the fact that it's going to be in Vegas, Dollar Loan Center. It, that's cool to see, man. It's really nice, and getting that out there, like you said, that media, man. I'm telling you, the social media, the marketing, they did a really good job with really advertising all that and putting it out there for fans. Maybe you're not a fan, but you're like, oh my God, I'm going to be in Vegas that weekend. I'll go to a game. You know what I mean? I'll go see
Right.
an arena football game, and it's got to be a good game, right? It's going to be the two best teams in the league, championship game. I'll go to that. I'll go see that, and that's how they market it. And I think they did a great job picking Vegas. I will say one thing though, that arena is
Okay.
not meant for me.
It is a bit low.
uh,
I did realize that midway through the season that it is a little lower. So
yeah, I actually feel bad for Chemo Miehu. He's the kicker for Quad City this
mhm.
year. And we'd spoke after the game, and he had a deuce opportunity to tie the game at the end of the game. And he hit like the net that's blocking the Jumbotron and stuff like that, man. Like you can't we won, it's great. Like I'm excited, I'm pumped. But man, what if that was me?
Right.
Devastated. I mean, you see it. You if you watch the game, you saw him on the field. He went to his knees because that ball was going in. I trust him. He said that ball was going in. I guarantee you that ball was probably going in because I know how I am when I've hit the ceiling before on field goals and deuces, where it's like I knew that ball was going in, but guess what? There's nothing you can do about it. I even hit the speaker in Albany, and that was a deuce. Let me tell you, all the fans behind me knew it was a deuce too, but I hit the speaker. It is what it is.
Hmm.
But this arena, man, I mean, it's a very unforgiving. I don't know how. I spoke to him after the game. Like I said, I don't know how he hit that 50-yard field goal. I I told I said I told the whole bench. I'm like, guys, just put your hands up. I was like, you don't need to try and block it. Just get your
Hmm.
hands up because he's got to hit a line drive in order if he's going to have any chance of making this. And he made it. I was
I mean,
I
just saying
mean
you made
that's
50
crazy.
yards in the indoor scene. That's a, that's a big eye raiser. Not to mention, it's short, just the width being shortened down from that distance already,
Mm-hmm.
and you have, like you're talking about, I agree. I think in any arena, sure, it can be different heights, but you most likely have to still hit a line driver to get it out there in most places, I would think.
Yeah, I mean, there's some places like where I was playing in Northern Arizona. That's a great place to play.
Okay.
High ceilings. I mean, you could tell. I mean, I'll have a highlight clip coming out here soon. I got a friend of mine who's making one, but
Nice.
you could see the height of the ball on some of those field goals that I hit, and you're not going to hit the ceiling. You don't want to have to worry about that. Arizona Rattlers, another great place to kick. For someone
True.
with the caliber leg that I have, and it's just great kicking in places like those because you don't have to worry about, you don't have to think about it. Whereas somewhere like where Vegas plays at Dollar Loans, or Green Bay is another place. I've never actually played there, but I've heard the ceilings of San Diego Strike Force. That's a place where the ceiling is rather
Yeah.
low, and you do have to come about it a different way, and you have to adapt to the arena, and that's what makes the difference between a good kicker and a great kicker. And Chemo was very good at doing that. It was just really unfortunate that the championship game, where you have this element that you have to adapt to, and I get it. You have to adapt, and if you don't, then something like that may happen. And it was unfortunate, but those are just things that you have to deal with and get through, and fight through that kind of adversity as a kicker, being in arenas with low ceilings. And
Yeah.
like I said though, I take nothing bad away from that game. The environment, the atmosphere, everything was top notch. The way that they treated us, like I said, with the rooms, being able to go out, have a great time after the game, enjoy ourselves, have fun with it. It's just it's a great, great thing for the league.
Absolutely. I mean, look, you're kind of it's a little bit more of a nugget to celebrate players that have been on rosters that, got here showed the best of the league too. I think either way, even if win or lose, it's a great end of the season award, I guess, to go to Las Vegas to add that in. I do want to say, the more we talk like the ceiling heights and things of arenas, it almost feels like that's like the indoors equivalent of like baseball park dimensions. Just
Mm,
because you are going, all right, you're maybe you're a maybe pitcher or batter strategy. You're thinking, like, all right, the outfield walls and I don't know, say like Fenway are different than Wrigley. There's different dimensions. Like Wrigley, I know there's no massive wall out there, or like you're talking like say Arizona, you have more ceiling height. You can pound that thing a little higher up. There's more arc you can put on it if you want. So other places, in the NAL, Columbus, for example, it's notorious for being a arena with a very low scoreboard that you have to hit the
hmm
line drives. You can't do the arcs, otherwise you will be sacrificing field position instantly. So that conversation, more and more I hear about it that way over the last few years, and that's how I equate it when I tell people anymore. It's like baseball ballparks. Just think of it that way when you're doing this. Not every scoreboard can be lifted the same height because not every ceiling's the same height as well.
Correct.
And there's other garbage that's in the ceiling too. You gotta
That's
worry
a,
about. Like
that's a
speakers,
good way to put it, though.
like
That is a
speakers, of
good way
course.
to put it.
So here's a part of this I think it was pretty cool for you. You go, like I say, you got all these transactions you this year, but you get to end up with some familiar faces also there at Northern Arizona. Les Moss and Rob Keefe. I mean, that's got to be a little bit rewarding. You get to be on not only a championship caliber team, but you get to be on with guys that you had you had to see in the AFL and see that professionalism, with the Empire, and you get to work with those two on the same side. Tell me about their work, their how you've noticed their relationship, because I mean they've been hand in hand many a times through their career.
That's that's a that's a great topic to talk about because those two coaches are undeniably some of the best coaches ever. Coach Keefe, very intense. I love his
Yes.
intensity, and a lot of guys might find it, like, oh my god, this coach is crazy. I like that. I like the intensity because I think it brings the best out of an athlete. To be honest, having ADHD, I get a little hyper at times, and I get really intense with things, and I can see that, when he's coaching, and we actually did have special teams meetings, and I was like, oh, I felt like this is great, like we're having special
Mm-hmm.
teams meetings again. Finally, they coached like we were in the AFL,
Okay.
and that aspect I had missed because yeah, even though we're in a different league, but having that kind of professionalism and coaching that the way they've always coached, and I've never, had them as coaches. So I was just grateful, for the opportunity that they gave me to come in there and show them exactly what I can do instead of playing against them like I have in the past. So being a part of that, man, that was priceless because not only did I learn a lot being there and having them as coaches, but I was able to have fun and do what I do best. And they gave me that kind of freedom, where it was to speak my mind because I'm a veteran obviously,
Mm-hmm.
and I was able to kind of to put my input on special teams, and I love that because it was almost like I was a player coach,
Okay.
but at the same time I'm playing. You know what I mean? I loved that kind of freedom and just kind of like I can have my input in the special teams meetings. And he would even ask me. He would be like, "Hey, Craig, you have anything to say or anything to point out?" And I would say what I needed to say or the film that I
Nice.
watched. I would let the guys know. I would let them know about the other kickers, what their tendencies are, what they like to do, how we know if they're going to onside kick it or not. And it was just man. Let me tell you that those are two great coaches. With Les and Rob, it's just I couldn't have been in a better position and have better coaches given everything that I had been through this year, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like for that to be the end game for this year, man, you couldn't have put it together any better than that. Because yeah, we won a championship, but the way we did it with that coaching staff and the players that we had, there's a lot of rookies on our team.
Right.
lot of rookies. Coach Keith he made a joke when I first came on, and he picked me up, and he goes, man, he's like, Craig, we got a lot of young guys out here. He's like, I think you brought up our age a few years, our average age a few years with you coming on here.
Nice.
But you got to show out, and that's exactly what I did when I got there. And half of those guys didn't even know how old I was. They just thought a couple of guys thought I was 27, 28 years old, which was that's always cool. But even when they got to know that, and then I'm still hitting people the way I am, and I'm hitting the ball the way I am, it's everyone forgets about how old you are, and it's like, holy shit, this kid can kick. So that was just to have them as coaches, and to be able. So that's another thing that attests to how well they are as coaches. They took a bunch of rookies and won a championship off a team who was 1-13 last year. That's not
Right.
easy to do. That's really not easy to
No.
do. And to be able to do that, that really is a testament to how well they are as coaches. And you know, I'm not even just saying that because they were my coaches. I'm just saying that because I've had a lot of coaches, and seeing the way they coach and how they do things and how they run things, it's very professional, and that's how it should be done.
Yeah, I think you summarized that really well. And just emphasizing again, this was a team, I mean, brand new expansion team, of course, the year prior. So it was going to be up in the air how it was going to be built in the first place. But just the turnaround from going worst to first cannot be understated. And they really did have a lot of guys that I think made names for themselves just by being on that Northern Arizona team. I'm seeing guys that are getting these draft invites for XFL. I believe one or two, if I'm right, have gotten USFL contracts as well, or
Mm-hmm.
at least have had interest. So it's clearly there. People are taking a look at it and getting that new face, that new, I guess, path. It's got to be great. It's got to be a good feeling.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. And so I think this is perfect way I'll parlay this into just recent news and kind of your thoughts. Look, you've of course been in the indoor or outdoor scene. Before during this time frame early in the year last year, you were put into the USFL draft pool as well. Um, and now the XFL, I mean, they're coming back. And now that they have a partnership specifically with the IFL, fascinating stuff because in the eyes of the people, this is almost developing a visible, direct like path that I don't think we've really seen, at least in anything like football has been. We've seen this NBA, NHL, it's a normal deal. Hockey, in
Right.
particular, in my area, I mean, I've got the Indy Fuel, who are the AA affiliate to the AAA affiliate Red Rockville Red Hogs, who then go to the Blackhawks. Now you have the IFL, who says, okay, and this was put, I think by Green Bay ownership pretty well. We want to pick one place we can maybe manage our talent, but also possibly get some people that, maybe they still are wanting to play and they can get an instant fallback. You know, there is then the XFL. That's got to be kind of for you. I mean, for yourself in particular, you know, kicking can revolve. The kicking game can revolve at times with the outdoor and can be a first come or emergency need service. That's got to be nice for you. But I imagine for other players around the league, it's got to be great to say, oh, wow, I got to ask more about this now. You know, I got to figure out what this will look like.
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, like I said, it's great for the league and it's great for the players. And with something like this of this magnitude coming in and partnering up with the IFL, I mean, as a player, what could be better? You know,
Mm-hmm.
especially if you're trying to go to the next level and you have something like this happen. I mean, it's like, am I going to want to go to the NAL or am I going to want to go to the IFL? It's like now I mean, you got to pick and choose, but at the same time, it's like, what what is going to benefit me more as a player
Right.
being seen at the next level? And I think that, you know, with them coming in and partnering with them, it's going to attract more players, more higher caliber players. Because look at the ceiling now. The ceilings are now they've changed. Let's be honest. And for me, I've always wanted to play outside, man. I mean, we talk about this all the time,
Oh,
and
yes. Oh, yes.
It's just it's one of those things, man. It's like I would love to play outside on those uprights. And with the opportunity, I'm at the point now where if it doesn't happen, like you said, I was in the USFL draft invite last year. I even got a draft contract, which a lot of guys just got invited to the draft pool. I got a
Mhm.
draft contract, and then you can actually get drafted. Some guys still didn't. Unfortunately, I didn't, and that's just kind of how the cookie crumbles. But I do have an insider with the New Jersey Generals, so I'm going to explore that and see what happens.
Ooh.
He's the equipment
Okay.
manager there, so we'll see. Nothing's guaranteed, and that's the only unfortunate thing. But he asked the head coach, and he said, "Well, can he kick?" Because he told him, what my age was and where I am in my career. He's like, "Can he kick?" He's like, "Oh yeah, he can kick." He's like, "Well, if he can kick, we don't care what his age is." So
Mhm.
him saying that, it gives you hope. And that's always a good thing, but it is a dangerous thing. Hope is always a good thing, but it can be very dangerous at times. So it's nice to know that it's there. Um, but for me, I'm going to keep kicking the way I have been. I'm going to try and be the best kicker that I can be. I'm going to try and be the best kicker in the league, in any league that I'm in. So I think it's, like I said, it's great for the league. It's great for the players, the young guys coming in that deserve an opportunity to be able to be seen, right? And possibly get that opportunity. I think it's great. I think it's good for the league. And it's good
Yeah.
for the players. That's
Right.
what would you want more than to be a part of a league where it's almost like a D League kind of thing, kind of like the NBA is, where they have that D League, and then you can get brought up and you could go back and you get brought. I think it's great. Great
Just
opportunity.
just the shot, I think, is what everyone asks for. Just give me that spotlight that I can maybe show off and say, "Hey, you missed me." You know, take a
Yep.
look at me again. Trust me, you didn't. You maybe you want to take another shot on me. So, you know, I I see the pathways like that. Now that you're gonna have
Yeah.
like XFL scouts that are probably going to be paying more attention. Well, they will be. It's a partnership with them, not only for movement but combines as well. They're doing joint combines, um, but
They are.
they're going to be having more eyeballs on it than they maybe previously were before. Which is saying something because I've seen plenty of IFL guys from this past season that are getting these draft invites. One of them that rose my eyebrows is actually Thomas Owens on the Massachusetts Pirates. You know,
Yes.
somebody that's
Thomas
been
is,
he's been killing it 2 years in a row now. He deserves to get in one of these leagues, in my opinion.
and I was actually fortunate enough to play with Tom Owens.
Right.
So I know what he can do, and I've seen him make some unbelievable catches, and he's a great player. So for him to get noticed like that and to get an opportunity, I think it's great. Like you said, it's a good thing. It's a good thing.
Absolutely. Well, Craig, I want to say thanks for joining the show. Before we go here, I guess you already kind of hinted at maybe some things you're looking at with the offseason here. If the Generals give you a call, I'm gonna be hard pressed to be fighting my my Panthers fandom, but I will root for you all the same. Nonetheless, I mean, you got a highlight video dropping. Where are we gonna see that at? And what else might be next for you, my friend?
Yeah, so Craig Peterson 19 is my Instagram. Twitter is Craig the Leg 19, and then I get Facebook Craig Peterson. Yeah, I just always, whenever I post, I just add it to all three, make it really easy for me. So social media is what it is. I get it, kind of have to do it at this point. Um, but New Jersey would be great. Like I said, I'm just kind of taking things in stride. Just going one day at a time, seeing what opens up, whatever comes, whatever may be, it'll happen. Um, Given everything that's happened this year, uh, given the environment, everything, I most likely, in fact, I'm 100% staying in the IFL.
Okay.
I don't know where yet. I don't know. I have some offers on the table. I've gotten a few NAL offers, but unfortunately, I'm not going to pursue those. But the IFL is where it's at right now, especially with this XFL thing, just in case. You know what I mean? Um, if anything, it's somewhere to be seen a bit a bit more on a higher scale, on a bigger stage, should say.
Sure.
So, I've got a couple places in mind. I'm not gonna say where I'm going just yet. Hopefully outside. Obviously, that's the goal, man. Everyone
Right.
knows that. For those who have been following me on my journey, just that opportunity to play outside in a game would be amazing, and that's the goal. But uh, you know, given all that, we'll see what happens. Most likely it'll be out west because that's mostly where the IFL is, but we'll just see how far west. Um,
Right.
that's really all I'm going to say right now. I have not made up my mind. It's just something that I'm talking to my family about. I'm talking to my friends about. Kind of putting all the pieces together and see what the best fit is for me. Obviously, I want a three-peat. You know, it would be nice to win 4 championships in 5 years.
Oh,
That would
that'd
be
be
pretty cool
wow.
to say. And along with a three-peat, I think that would be pretty cool. Um, Nobody wants to count their chickens before they're hatched, so I won't. But I would like to put myself in the best position in order to do that, to win another championship. So, I'm gonna go with what's best for me and my family, and figure out where I'm gonna end up. But you guys will know, it'll be out there on social media. I'm excited. I'm gonna keep grinding out here, and kind of take it one day at a time. And I hope everyone has a good Thanksgiving and Christmas coming up. And I appreciate you having me on the show too. Seriously, thank you.
Well, no problem. And hey, it's great to talk with you again. Like I said, following your journey has been fascinating this past year specifically. It's been great to catch up. With especially someone that I've had on the show prior. And it's been a minute. And again, I stress it's been a minute since I've done one of these too for Gridiron Gallery. It's nice. It's refreshing to get to do the original show that got me invested in doing this stuff, and with someone that I enjoyed an episode previous with. So really appreciate your time here. Thank you very much, Craig.
Of course, man. Of course. I mean, it's been what, over a year now, right?
Yeah,
Since we did. Yeah. Time
it
flies,
has been
man.
over a year. No, right? Good Lord.
Time flies, seriously. Yeah, that means, hey, listen, that just means we got to do it again next year, if anything.
Hey, you and I will be in touch. That's going to happen. What I would love to see, and I'll end it with this. I swear on this podcast here and anywhere else, if you, and I know you're, don't take anything for granted, but if for some reason you end up on a USFL team from a connection or something like that, you will be getting a direct message from me instantly, because I will get you on that other show to highlight you right away. I will. That's going to be a
I
first, and I'm going to
appreciate
say that
that.
right here. It will happen.
Awesome, man.
Absolutely.
I appreciate that.
No problem. Well, Craig Legg, everyone. We'll catch you later here. Craig Peterson is his full name, of course. I don't. It's so easy just to go with the nickname moniker, but yes, Craig the Leg Peterson here. On the Gridiron Gallery podcast, folks. We'll catch you next time. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate you stopping by. If you have after such a long time, we'll see you for whenever you get your next episode.